yeah, to me, it's just puzzling. I really am surprised that the Yankees offered it. I thought, and I shouldn't have, once they offered it, they must know that, hey, he's not going to take it. But clearly that wasn't the case.
You are Locked On Yankees, your daily New York Yankees podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, I'm Brian McKeon alongside Stacey Gotsulias. Welcome to Locked On Yankees, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. We'd like to thank you for making us part of your first listen of the day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the FanDuel app today. On today's show, we have ESPN New York's host, Jake Asman. He also hosts at Mad Dog Sports Radio, and he hosts a very popular Jake Asman show, which we'll discuss later of how he's possibly getting through that this year. On YouTube, it is the largest or one of the largest Jets podcasts that is out there. He also worked at ESPN 97.5 in Houston for a while, so I want to discuss some of that with him. Welcome to the first time on Locked On Yankees, Jake Asman. What's up, Jake? How are you?
Brian, Stacey, great to be with you guys. I've been a listener all season long, so cool to be a guest here as we kick off the Yankee offseason in full swing.
So, Jake, me and you met, I want to say like 8 years ago now at WFAN. We were both new in the industry, working the behind the scenes tape op shifts and board op shifts and overnights and all kind of crazy stuff. And then you bolted off for Houston, which is like unbelievable that you like started your sports radio career out in Texas. I believe you're Long Island born, right?
That's right.
You grew up rooting for all New York teams, and then you went out to Texas. We're going to get into that a little bit, but I just want to use that as like a teaser for all of our listeners to like understand. We have a Yankees fan who was a sports radio host in Houston while everything was going down. So I think there's a lot of interesting stuff that you could provide for us.
Yeah. While the Yankees were frequently losing to the Astros in the playoffs, and then I had to do a drive time show for 4 hours talking about that as a diehard Yankee fan. So yeah, it was not the most fun. A great opportunity, but that was definitely probably the hardest part about the job, doing a talk show about Houston sports as a Yankee fan down there.
It is fascinating. I have some questions for you on that a little bit later, but I want to get to what's currently going on with the Yankees now. So up until yesterday, Trent Grisham was still pondering whether or not he's going to take the qualifying offer. He accepts it, $22 million. He's in the top 10 now of highest paid Yankees on the roster, which is mind-boggling to me. And I don't think anyone in their right mind thought or knew Trent Grisham was going to get $22 million in the open market. So he took this for a one-year deal. I think that includes the New York Yankees, who also didn't think that Trent Grisham was going to take this deal. He does. He's now going to be the Yankees center fielder next year. What are your initial thoughts and how do you feel about this?
Yeah, to me, it's just puzzling that the Yankees offered the qualifying, they offered the qualifying offer in the first place. Like I keep going back to that. And when they first did it, I thought, like they must know that teams are apparently lining up to give a multi-year deal to Trent Grisham, because the second they offered it, I go, he's going to take it. Like, why wouldn't he take it? It's $22 million. There could be a potential lockout after this year. We don't know definitively, what that's going to look like for all of Major League Baseball. Why wouldn't he take $22 million? It's more money than he's made at any point in his entire career combined. And to me, the fact that the Yankees offered it, I almost wanted to like give them the benefit of the doubt at first, being like, well, clearly they know that someone is obviously going to offer him a different deal and he's not taking it. So the fact that, no, that never happened and he took it, it really is baffling to me. I mean, I guess I could try and come up with reasons why maybe they felt like they had to do it. Maybe they're concerned Bellinger is going to be too expensive for them and they just don't want to be, basically losing out on both Grisham and potentially Bellinger. But even that doesn't make sense in my mind, because I'm thinking, well, you let Trent Grisham go to free agency. Worst case, you get a chance to match whatever offers coming in. You don't even need to worry about the qualifying offer. So, yeah, to me, it's just puzzling. I really am surprised that the Yankees offered it. I thought, and I shouldn't have, once they offered it, they must know that, hey, he's not going to take it. But clearly that wasn't the case.
Yeah, a point that I didn't even make on our earlier show is even if they took the gamble and let him go to free agency, he wasn't, even if they had to overpay to keep him, he wasn't going to get $22 million in the open market. And overpay was like $18 million a year. So the whole thing just makes absolutely no sense to me. And I think they kind of screwed themselves here. Because now they're still going to apparently go after Bellinger. They're still going to be in the Kyle Tucker market. They're still going after an outfielder. And now you completely stunted the growth of Jason Dominguez. Like, because where's he playing now? Are you going to sit Trent Grisham for $22 million a year? You're not going to find a trade partner. So they just completely stunted the growth of Jason Dominguez at this point.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I could think of, Brian, is they know Stanton's not going to be healthy for the full year. He never is, right? So, maybe they look at it like, okay, we have the DH spot that's going to be available. So maybe we could put, Ben Rice at catcher for some games, open up first base for Cody Bellinger. Maybe we could get some at-bats there and, in the outfield for Dominguez. But, I mean, it's tough. I mean, what's 250 at-bats going to do for Jason Dominguez's development anyway? Like, you want him playing every day if you're going to, once again, stunt his development for the second year in a row. So, it wouldn't shock me if they traded him. Maybe that's their plan. They don't believe in him, and they know him better than the general public does, and they're going to try and flip him for something. Same thing with Spencer Jones, right? I mean, what's his path going forward? He doesn't really have one for another season. So unless it's just like catastrophic injuries, I don't think we really have clear roles for Dominguez and then obviously Jones in AAA. It's tough. I mean, maybe there's a big trade coming that we're not thinking. Maybe the Yankees know they could get someone to take Grisham if they pay off part of the salary, if a move they're working on pans out. You try and come up with all these scenarios why they would do it, but I don't think any of the ones I've come up with are that great. I would have been totally fine, as I think you guys would have been. Let him go to free agency, see what he's worth, and if you want to bring him back, you're the Yankees. You're going to get the last chance to match the offer anyway.
Yeah.
Right. Because
Totally
it's clear he wanted to be a Yankee, and the way they went about it was very strange. Now, speaking of the Yankees, what is your overall feeling around the franchise? We know you're a big Yankee fan. You cover the team. What's your feeling about the team as someone who covers them and is a fan at the same time?
Look, I mean, it's interesting because, on one hand, the Yankees do something that no other team in New York has basically done my entire life. They're good every year. They're usually in the playoffs. They give you a chance. But as a Yankee fan, the expectation level is not just be good and make the playoffs. It's, hey, when are we going to win a championship? And you could say, well, Jake, they were in the World Series last year. And I get that, but they got embarrassed in 5 games, and they were, being mocked by everyone for how they played. Just make them play baseball and you'll win. That didn't feel good losing, even though we're, a year removed from them being in the World Series. So, 2009 is a long time ago, and I know there's other teams that hear that and go, oh, boo-hoo, like try being a Met fan or try being a fan of this. Like, I get all that, but the Yankee standard is different, especially when you have the same regime that is essentially overseeing this now championship drought, right? Like, we're talking about Cashman, who's been here forever, and even Aaron Boone now is going into his 9th season as the manager already. They fired Joe Girardi, or didn't renew him. However, they fired him after they went to Game 7 of the ALCS against Houston in 2017. That is a lifetime ago. Aaron Judge was a rookie then. We're now talking about 34-year-old Aaron Judge, and how many prime years does he have left? So, on one hand, I appreciate that the Yankees give us hope every year. They're competitive. They're in the playoffs. They give you a chance. But on the other, I feel like the expectation is no longer championship or bust. They are very satisfied with, let's get into the playoffs. If we do that, we'll take our best chance. It went from championship or bust to, hey, Cashman's now convinced the Steinbrenner family the playoffs are this one giant crapshoot, and if we just get in enough, eventually we'll break through. But I think that's such a poor way to kind of look at it, because you mentioned I was in Houston, right? When I was in Houston, the Astros were in the ALCS 7 straight years. They were in the World Series 4 out of the 7 years that I lived down there. It wasn't a crapshoot for them. Build a better team that gives you a chance to actually break through and get to the ALCS consistently, get to a World Series. And then, yes, if you get to the World Series enough, you will break through. But what people don't bring up enough with the Yankees, it's not just the drought. It's the fact that they've only been to the World Series one time during this drought since 2009. It's not like they're knocking on the door and they're there. They're losing a lot in the wild card round, the division series, in the CS a few times. Like, that to me is the issue. They're not going all in to take that next step, to not just be good enough to be a playoff team, but to actually be one of the favorites to win the World Series.
You mentioned Houston, so a little behind the scenes thing in the whole radio industry. A lot of us that grow up and want to be on sports radio start working behind the scenes like me and Jake did at WFAN. And a lot of people's, I guess, conundrum, you want to call it, in New York, if you're from here, is you have to basically leave to get back to New York. So a lot of people wind up leaving New York and circling the country and going from small market to small market to small market just to get their way back to New York City. And, Jake did that. He's a prime example of what it takes to do that. And you left and went to Houston. And I think you left and went before this became a big thing between the Yankees and the Astros. So to your credit there, how difficult was it, though? Because I know from your Jet fandom, I'm assuming it's very similar to your Yankee fandom, where it runs in your blood and it affects your emotional well-being every single day like it does the rest of us.
Yep.
How was it living in Houston with a cheating scandal coming out, knowing they're cheating against your team, stopping that magical 2017 team, which, by the way, if Houston's not banging on trash cans, the Yankees do win a World Series, and your whole last argument is kind of irrelevant because they have a championship at that point. But I rest my case. How was it, trying to stay professional and be a radio host and, develop a career while you're down there, but also put aside that like emotional fandom of being a Yankee fan, knowing that this is the team screwing your team over that you're trying to cover realistically? Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it was a challenge, right? I mean, not everyone agreed with what I was saying because I wasn't a homer. And I've never been a homer with the teams I root for anyway. Like now it's funny, like on my Jet YouTube show, I'm now too negative, but I'm the guy the last 2 years that had the Jets winning 12 games and I really believed in where they were going. So it's just like, maybe I'm just a fan who tries to call it how it is. I don't know. But in Houston, it was the same way. I mean, you're only saying that because you're a Yankees fan. Or so like it was a challenge. I liked the challenge of it. Like it was fun to kind of go back and forth with the Houston sports fan. And there's also what was nice about doing radio down there. There's a lot of transplants that live in Houston, not even just New York transplants, but a lot of people from the Midwest. Like when the Astros would play the Cubs, it was Wrigley Field South. Like it was insane how many Cubs fans would take over when the Yankees were in town. Minute Maid would be, 70% Yankees fans for a lot of these games. So it was definitely a challenge to be like the Yankee fan talking about the Astros cheating scandal as the Astros are kicking the Yankees, in these playoffs. So it was definitely at times challenging, but overall, I wouldn't trade that experience for anything because, to your point, Brian, you got to go where the jobs are. You got to go where you can get reps. Yeah. And, it was an awesome experience to kind of be on in such a big market, right? You have the NFL, you have Major League Baseball, you have the NBA, and then college football is so big in Houston because you have fans from Texas A&M, the Longhorns, LSU. A ton of LSU fans live in Houston because New Orleans, Baton Rouge is only about a 5-hour drive. So it was a really great experience to be in such a great sports town for that many years.
Just quickly before we go to the other side, Jake, how is the sports radio fan in Houston different than it is the New York fan? Because we have a very educated sports radio fan in New York. They're very up on what's going on and very involved. How is it different in Houston?
There's just less passion is the biggest thing. Like you won't, you're just not going to get the screaming and yelling type of fan that you get on like the radio, and not even just New York, just really like the Northeast, like Boston, Philly, those towns. It's interesting because Houston is such a transient city. Like the sports radio does not rate as well as it should for a city that is actually, at least last I checked, the 4th most populated U.S. city. So you'd think it'd be like a behemoth of like sports radio ratings, and there's 3 stations down there, but none of them in particular rate well relative to the market size. So it's just a different level of passion, I guess, here in the Northeast compared to Houston. And that's, I think part of it's transient. I think some of it is, hey, the Texans have only been around since 2002, right? So you don't have that kind of like inbred in the culture, NFL team with football being the most popular sport. So I think all that kind of plays a part of it. So it's very different, but it was a really fun city to be in because you do have all these professional teams and you have such a passionate, college football fan base that's in the city as well.
100%. Coming up next, we talk more to Jake Asman about an Astro player that's a former Astro player that could be coming to New York. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. And even if you miss the start of the game or you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into same-game parlays for a shot at a bigger payout. We're talking to Jake Asman, and he is super involved on the New York Jets. You want to get involved on football Sundays, betting the Jets live. It's a risky gamble, but sometimes it works, like in that Bengals game. Get involved there. Knicks, Rangers, any kind of New York sports, any kind of national sports, whatever you want on FanDuel. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late game push. Now, right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head over to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game today with FanDuel. It's the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Thank you for making Locked On Yankees your first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. We got more with Jake Asman for you. Stacey, take it away.
So, Jake, you're familiar with Kyle Tucker's game from your time in Houston. Do you want the Yankees to pursue Cody Bellinger or Tucker more going into the offseason?
So I think Tucker is the better just pure hitter, and he's a little younger. However, I don't think the Yankees are going to shop in the Kyle Tucker part of the story here. I don't think they're going to spend that kind of money on Tucker. So I'll take Bellinger because the one thing I love about Belly, the guy proved he could handle playing in New York, right? He handled being in LA with the Dodgers and Chicago. He aced his first year with the Yankees. Team guy, plays great defense. He's a grinder, doesn't strike out a lot. Like, to me, if that's going to be the big spend, fine, because at least I know what I have with him. If it was up to me, if I can only have either or, I would still, I think, lean Tucker just because I think he's such a phenomenal player. But I'm not going to kill the Yankees if, their big move is bringing back Belly. It's sometimes hard to bring in a guy to New York and you don't know what you're going to get. I already know what I'm going to get with Cody Bellinger, and I'm fine with that. That just can't be their only move, though. That's my big thing. It can't just be, well, because we used the qualifying offer on Trent Grisham, now we re-signed Belly, and, that's it. Like, that to me is the problem. Like, you could bring back Bellinger, and I have no problem with that move. That can't be the only major move, though, you make once we get to free agency really getting underway here.
So it would not be a proper Jake Asman spot on any platform if we didn't bring up the New York Jets. And we can allow you to brag for a second. Your YouTube Jet show, which I believe is just all you, it's the Jake Asman show, which you created, you started, you built everything, is one of the largest like single team coverage podcasts, radio shows, YouTube shows that's out there. It's unbelievably impressive what you've built, honestly, and you should applaud yourself because it's amazing what you've done. Is it the most listened to Jets show out there right now? Can you brag for a little bit?
Oh, I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, as far as like subscribers on YouTube and our podcast downloads, it's right there with any of them for sure. So I mean, it's just amazing because of how bad the team has been, right? Like the fact that I've been able to be a full-time Jet YouTuber and I do some work for ESPN Radio and Mad Dog Radio on the side. But like I used to be full-time radio and I started the YouTube thing as like a little side hustle when I was in Houston, just because like we're not doing Jets talk on ESPN Houston, right? So this was my outlet to talk about them. And it's crazy how passionate the fans are despite the lack of winning, right? I mean, the Jets have the longest playoff drought in sports. They haven't had a winning season in a decade, yet I'm able to do it for a living every day talking about them. It's the total opposite of the Yankees where they're in the playoffs every year and they don't win. I'd kill for the Jets to be like what the Yankees are. Like the Yankees are kind of like the Pittsburgh Steelers. Like they're always there. They're winning. They're in the playoffs, but they haven't won a Super Bowl in a while. That's kind of what the Yankees are, right? If you want the comp, I would kill for the Jets to be like the Steelers, if you will. So it's interesting because when I'm on ESPN New York, I get to talk about the Yankees, the Knicks, get to do, Mets talk, Giants talk, all the teams. But YouTube is just all dedicated to the Jets. And despite how bad the team has been, I'm just grateful that people still care the way they do about them and support the show every day.
I pull for the Jets, and I grew up rooting for the Jets, and I consider myself a Jet fan, but I would never consider myself a diehard. Like they've beaten it out of me, and I willingly admit, like I root for my wallet on football Sundays, and if the Jets win, wonderful. But if I'm betting against them, then have the other team at it. I'm a fraud, and I'll admit that. But you going into every single season, like honestly, how do you do it? Because like every year you're going in with this team that like you try to be positive, and then by week 4, most years you know where the season's heading. Like this year with Justin Fields, like there is something to. I mean, obviously it's a job and you're making money to do it and everything, but there is something to having to put out a professional product all the time on YouTube and cover this team that you're also again emotionally attached to. How do you keep persisting at it every single year? Because have they even had a winning season since you started the show?
No, they haven't. I mean, the closest they got was they were 6-3 in 2022, and then they were 7-4. Then they lost their last 6, and that kind of set up they won 7 games, and all they need now is a quarterback. So then I had the biggest offseason ever as far as like growth for the channel when they were pursuing Aaron Rodgers and all the hype and excitement. They're on Hard Knocks, and Rodgers is going to Knicks and Rangers playoff games, and everyone's so pumped. And then I was in the building the night he got hurt on September 11th a few years ago, 4 plays in, and it's just like, you got to be kidding me. So, you can't make it up. So, no, I've never covered any winning season from them. They haven't had one again in a decade, and I started doing the show as like a side thing in 2021, Robert Saleh's first year. So, they're not going to have another winning season this year. I mean, the good thing about the Jets, and I wish it was not like this, it was reversed, but it kind of is what it is. The offseason is always exciting because they have cap space. This year they have 2 first-round picks. They're probably going to draft a quarterback, so there's going to be a huge debate on which quarterback do you take, and people love calling in and arguing about that. Now there's the big debate. Do they wait till 2027 where they have 3 first-round picks and take someone there if it's a better QB class? So, like, I already have, like, my entire offseason of topics I'll be going through, and we'll go to the Combine as I do every year, and that's a lot of fun, but it's tough. That's why, as down as I am sometimes about the Yankees, as someone who talks about one of the worst teams in professional sports every day, for a living on YouTube, I am grateful that the Yankees at least give you a playoff year. They give you, they give you a season every year where you're playing meaningful games late. And that's not nothing given some of the other teams in New York City.
For sure.
Speaking of other teams from New York City, let's go back to the Yankees just for a second, because Brian brought it up and you brought it up. It's a big talking point about Hal Steinbrenner. It almost seems like the talking point is he doesn't care about winning championships or that he's cheap. So where do you stand on that? Do you think he is cheap? He's not all in on the success of the franchise, or has the franchise just been mismanaged in the last decade or so?
So I think Hal wants to win, but anyone who tells me that he wants to win just as bad as his dad did, I don't buy it. Like, I don't believe that to be true. And I know people have said, oh, it really bothers him that the Yankees haven't won. Well, he still has the same general manager that's been here since, the late 90s. The manager has been here since 2018, and they have not won a World Series, unlike Joe Girardi, who won in his second year. So you can't tell me that he wants to win at all costs. I think he wants to win, and obviously he has spent a lot of money, and I'm not going to kill Hal for having like a $300 million payroll and say, what are you doing? It's not enough. But if I'm Hal, I'd be questioning how that money is allocated. Because I agree, you don't necessarily need a $300 million payroll to win. But look at some of the money that the Yankees have spent and where it's allocated to. Yet the guy who's made all these decisions is still here. So, like, at some point, if you say it's championship or bust and you haven't won the championship since 2009, you can't fault any Yankee fan who gets frustrated with the lack of changes when you see changes all across the sport to other teams. I always go back to the Astros because it drives me nuts when Cashman does the playoffs or a crapshoot thing. The Astros, by the way, in their 2 World Series wins, I get it, one of them is tainted with the cheating scandal, but still, their consistency speaks for itself. They were in 4 World Series in 7 years in their golden era. They also won the World Series with 2 different managers and 2 different general managers. So, yes, some of the players were the same, but they also traded some of those guys, lost some of those guys in free agency, and they never skipped a beat for a 7-year run. Whereas the Yankees, they have not again won the World Series since 2009, and they only have that one appearance to point to since then as well. So I just think it's very lazy when it's playoffs or a crapshoot, or Cashman's new thing. It's random. I never said crapshoot, whatever that New York Post story was a couple of weeks ago. Like, to me, if you say the playoffs are random or a crapshoot, it's very similar, but whatever. I digress. I get the frustration because I think Hal does want to win, but I think he's also not going to make crazy changes as long as they're in the mix every year. Like, it doesn't kill them if they don't win the championship, as long as they're close. And in his mind, if you're in the playoffs, you're close enough where he's not going to upset the apple cart, so to speak, and keep things status quo.
Right. All right. Well, we haven't talked about this in a couple of days. So coming up next, we're going to ask Jake his opinion about the Aaron Judge versus Cal Raleigh MVP debate.
So back here with Jake Asman of ESPN New York, Mad Dog Sports Radio, and of course, the Jake Asman Show, as you can see behind him. Jake, they give the MVP to Judge. Cal Raleigh's a close second, and I'm sure you've scoured all of social media, seeing the arguments for each guy. It's I'm on the Judge camp. Stacey's in the Judge camp, and it sounds obvious because we're Yankee fans, but I also think the numbers are just so overwhelming for Judge that it's hard to go on the Cal Raleigh thing. I want to know where you stand, though. Maybe you have a differing opinion.
No, I completely agree with you guys. I mean, he led the AL in like every category that truly matters, right? I mean, first off, he hit over 50 home runs and won a batting title. Like, that speaks for itself. Mm-hmm. Then you look at just the dominance he had compared to like second place in each of these categories, like average, slugging, OPS, runs, total bases, on base, B WAR, F WAR, whatever like WAR stat you want to use that does factor in defense. Judge still was ahead of Raleigh in all these things. And I'm not trying to like knock Cal Raleigh's season. He had 60 home runs as a switch inning catcher. That's amazing. But Judge was better. Like, he just objectively was. Like, if Aaron Judge didn't win, it would have been, to me, ridiculous. People talk about, there's such a New York bias. No. There's an anti-Yankee bias. Ask Derek Jeter about 2006 with Justin Morneau winning the MVP award instead of him. Don't tell me there's a New York bias. There's a clear Yankee bias, and Judge was just so good. He actually was able to overcome that. And we keep going back to Houston, right? Let's be real. Judge now has 3 MVPs. He should have 4. He should have 4. He was better than Altuve in 2017, especially now that we know the Astros were cheating. So, like, we're watching an all-time great player at the height of his powers. He should have won the MVP. I mean, you talk about 3-time MVP in Yankee history. The only other guys that have done that are DiMaggio, Mantle, and Berra. So, like, to me, if you watched Aaron Judge, if you watch this peak that he's been on now these last, like, 4 years, right? If you didn't injure his toe against the Dodgers a few years ago. Maybe he wins the MVP again in 23. Like, it's unbelievable what he's doing. So to me, he deserved it. Rowley had a phenomenal season, but Judge was better. I think it's as simple as that.
Yeah, I'd agree with you wholeheartedly. And I actually, we always try to bring up the 2017 season because it still bothers me because almost every statistical category, again, passed Altuve and didn't get it that year either. And I think part of that was probably Judge being so young and a rookie and all that kind of stuff, but wasn't fair at all. I do want to circle back to the Houston thing and you moving there. You didn't know anyone when you moved there, if I'm not wrong, right? Like, that's got to be difficult too, just like being the age you were and to go out there and just start a job and everything. I know you're chasing a career, but how was that for you, just like emotionally and like not having family or friends and everything like that out there?
Yeah, I really didn't know anyone. It's actually kind of funny. So when I was in college, I went to Ithaca College. Our senior year, were able to convince like the communication school to like send us to the Super Bowl to do our radio show from Super Bowl Radio Row. And that was actually in Houston for the Patriots Falcons Super Bowl, the infamous 28-3, Tom Brady comeback game. Right. So I was in Houston for a week just for that. That was my only time ever in Houston before I moved down there. So didn't know anyone. And, thankfully, I think the jobs that we have like in radio, it's like a naturally kind of like friendly environment where like, it's easy to talk to people. You have a common bond of sports. Hey, come meet me out and come watch the game with us or whatever. So thankfully I was able to make friends pretty quick and, I had a great experience down there and still keep in touch with a lot of the people that I became friends with, but didn't know anyone. So it definitely was an adjustment at first, just trying to figure out like, okay, like, what are these fans like? What do I need to know about the history about certain teams here? Because like, you just don't know. Like, I know I could tell you everything about like the history of the Yankees or the Jets or the Knicks, or the Islanders, or the teams I root for, but it's a totally different thing when you're talking about trying to learn the marketplace for, a city you're going to be doing sports talk in.
Yeah, for sure. And it's amazing that you did that too, because I don't think a lot of people in this industry have the guts to do it. I don't think I did. Like I cut my teeth working at WFAN for years and years and years and eventually got on the air, but I don't think I had the guts to like just get up and move and just go to a different city and try and figure it out. So I give you props for that, for making everything work, because it is
I
really
appreciate
impressive.
that. Yeah, I mean, look, it's like I wanted to go somewhere where you can get on the air. Like being at the Fan was great, but I'm doing the midnight, the 6 a.m. board op shift where maybe I say 3 words on the air, or doing the old 3 a.m. to 11 a.m. tape op shift. So, you pay your dues, you get the experience, but I wanted to go somewhere that would let me get on the air, do a show, make mistakes, learn from it, get better, get the reps. And, the only way you do that is by actually getting on the air and doing it. So just fortunate that the opportunity happened. I could have been in like a way smaller of a market. I got lucky that it was Houston of all cities, because a lot of people I know, friends of mine in the business, they start way smaller towns, especially TV people. I got friends that were in Anchorage, Alaska, Elmira, New York, somewhere in North Dakota, Dothan, Alabama. I mean, I could tell you all the stories about people I know.
That's Dothan, Alabama. I know all about Dothan.
Yeah.
Exactly.
There you go. I don't even know where it is, but like that's so I felt pretty lucky that, hey, like I get to go to Houston. Weather's nice most of the year, great sports town, food's great, people are friendly. So it was an awesome experience.
This is a great spot, and I'm very glad that you agreed to come on, because I really appreciate this. Stacey's going to ask the last question here, and I think it's the most important question of the night. And I think I know your answer. I do. I'm pretty confident in your answer, but I do want everybody watching to take a note of Jake's facial expression when we ask him this question, because I think if this event ever happens in history, Jake might not be with us very much longer afterwards, because it's that rare. Go ahead, Stacey.
Okay. What would mean more to you on an emotional level? A Jets title, an Islanders title, or a Yankees title?
Ooh. If you put the Knicks in there too, I'd really
have to think about Knicks too. Yeah, because that's also a long drought.
Yeah, it's just it's got to be the Jets, right? I look, I'm in no position to complain about any championship. The teams I root for win. Believe me, I'm desperate for another one. The only one I truly have is the 09 Yankees, because I was alive for the 90s teams, but I'm too young to really truly appreciate it. So I really only have 09. That's why, like, A-Rod to me, like, retire 13. Like, that's my guy. Like, I don't care what anyone says. Like, thank you, Alex Rodriguez, right? But I think it would be the Jets, Stacey, just because I football is my favorite sport. I love baseball too, but I'm a Yankee fan, whereas like football, like I could watch any NFL game and be entertained. I love it that much. So, for me, it'd be the Jets because of like the connection I also have with my dad, who, was raised a Jet fan from my grandpa. They used to be season ticket holders at Shea Stadium when Joe Namath was the Jet quarterback. So like it's in my family through that. And I talk about them every day for work. So to kind of see my audience get to celebrate like a Jet championship, I can't even imagine what that would be like and how much fun that would be. So it'd be the Jets. But again, I'm not complaining. Give me a championship for any of the teams I root for. And I'm with it.
When pigs fly, the Knicks win, the Jets can, we'll see. Maybe one day. I think
the Knicks haven't won since the year before I was born.
73, the Knicks one. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, did you, like, in your heart of hearts, did you really think the Jets were going to get one with Rodgers? I know you thought they'd be competitive, but did you think they'd get a Super Bowl?
No, but I did think they were going to give us a deep playoff run one of the years. Like if you remember when they got him, like they were the third ranked defense in the league. They won 7 games. They had an unbelievable special teams unit. Like Greg Zuerlein was the most accurate kicker in the NFL, and just seeing the way it all.
Weapons. They had weapons
I mean, too. Garrett Wilson was coming off the offensive rookie of the year. You felt like here's Breece Hall, who's this young running back that probably would have won the rookie of the year award if he had stayed healthy in 22. So I mean, just. That was the two worst sports moments I've ever been at in person. Both happened recently. It was Rodgers in 2023 at the first game when he got hurt 4 plays in. And I was at game 5 of the World Series in 2024 when there were, the Yankee fans know the 5th inning, enough said. Like I was there. That was like that. So the two worst like sports moments I've seen. Oh, I'll throw Tyrese Halliburton game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals against the Knicks.
Man, you got to stay out of it. Oh, wow. You got to stay.
It's been bad.
Television.
But that's the thing. It's like I could never afford to go to these things growing up. But now that like I work in sports and like this is what I do, it's like I'm not missing these big games. And it's like I just get crushed every time. So I might need to like take a step back for the betterment of the teams I root for and not show face in the building for this stuff.
His name's Jake Asman. If you're a New York sports fan, definitely follow him on social media if you don't already. Jake, thank you so much for giving us your time.
You got it, guys. Keep up the great work with the show. I'll be listening all off season.
Thanks to Jake so much. That was just awesome to hear. And if you guys are Jets fans out there, obviously watch Locked On Jets, but also watch Jake's show because it is a tremendous Jets podcast. We want to thank you for making Locked On Yankees your first listen today. For your second listen, check out Locked On MLB. Baseball guru Sully brings a daily blend of humor and baseball, keeping you updated on every rumor and story throughout the offseason. Find Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. So that'll do it for this edition of Locked On Yankees. I'm Brian McKeon.
And I'm Stacey Gotsulias. We will see you tomorrow for Fan Mail Friday.